Imagine a vampire so powerful and enigmatic that she can transcend time, break taboos, and challenge the patriarchy of her time. Decades before Dracula, Carmilla was already terrorizing, seducing, and fascinating her victims with a lethal charm. But what really sets this vampire apart from the rest? Is it her subtle and seductive approach, or the fact that, in the middle of the Victorian era, she dared to be the incarnation of forbidden desire? Get ready to meet Carmilla, the vampire who could surpass even the legendary Count Dracula. Carmilla's story begins with Laura, a young girl living with her father in an isolated castle in Styria. This setting, surrounded by dark forests and oppressive silence, perfectly reflects Laura's emotional isolation. As a child, at the age of 6, she experienced a moment that would challenge her understanding of reality. A beautiful young woman appeared in her room in the middle of the night, like a guardian angel, comforting her in her arms. The comfort, however, gave way to terror. Laura felt a bite on her chest and, when she woke up screaming, found only emptiness. The servants rushed to her room, but there was no sign of the mysterious visitor. The governesses dismissed the event as a childish dream, although the fear Laura felt seemed very real. The memory of that night never left her, growing inside her like a slowly creeping shadow. The idea that something so strange could really have happened planted a seed of fascination and fear that would mark her life. Laura grew up trying to forget, but the truth always whispered in the corners of her mind. Years later, at the age of 19, Laura is a lonely young woman, eager for human connection. When a letter arrives informing her of the death of a potential friend, Bertha, she feels the emptiness of her existence deepen. That same night, tragedy meets fate. A carriage accident occurs near the castle. A mysterious lady and her unconscious daughter are welcomed by Laura's father. It is a turn of events that seems too fortuitous to be simple chance, but Laura, hungry for company, seizes the young woman's arrival as an opportunity. The unconscious young woman is Carmilla, frail in health and fascinating in appearance. When Laura sees her for the first time, it is as if time has stopped. A shock runs through her body. This is the same figure who had visited her years ago. Carmilla also recognizes Laura, claiming that she had dreamed of her before. This exchange of confessions creates an instant bond between the two, transforming what could have been a chance encounter into something that seems predestined. As strange as it may seem, Laura decides to accept this coincidence as something natural, ignoring the uneasiness that grows in her chest. After all, Carmilla's company represents everything Laura wanted: friendship, intimacy, and someone who could fill the void in her life. However, the mysterious connection between them carries a silent tension, as if a hidden truth hovers over the castle. Carmilla, with her supernatural beauty, is not just a guest. She is an enigma that defies logic itself. This encounter marks the beginning of a relationship that quickly deepens, bringing with it secrets, seduction, and a power that Laura cannot understand. Who is Carmilla really? And why does her presence bring both fascination and danger? These questions lead us to the next chapter: the seductive and deadly power of the vampire, who manipulates emotions as easily as she consumes blood. From the moment she arrives at the castle, Carmilla exudes an almost irresistible charm. She doesn't need grand introductions or exaggerated gestures. Her simple presence dominates the room. The young woman is described as mesmerizingly beautiful, her languid eyes and soft voice seeming to whisper secrets that only she knows. However, this grace is not devoid of strangeness. There is something about Carmilla that seems at once charming and threatening, like a flower too beautiful to be touched without risk. Carmilla's behavior is captivating, but full of peculiarities. She avoids the dawn, rarely eats, and there is a melancholy in her gestures that fascinates and intrigues Laura. In addition, Carmilla has moments of emotional outbursts, reacting furiously to religious hymns and even to a simple salesman. These episodes are as fleeting as they are intense, leaving one with the feeling that there is something much darker behind her serene appearance. Carmilla becomes an unforgettable presence in the castle, a figure that defies logical explanation. But it is in her interactions with Laura that Carmilla reveals her true power. She does not simply seek the young woman's friendship. She engages her in a deep and disconcerting emotional connection. Her gaze is intense, her words charged with a passion that goes beyond what Laura can comprehend. "You are mine," Carmilla whispers with a conviction that traps Laura in a tangle of fascination and confusion. Their relationship goes beyond any simple definition, blending friendship, desire, and a sense of impending danger. Laura, though captivated, feels something is wrong. There are times when her closeness to Carmilla leaves her strangely exhausted, as if her life force is being drained. This ambiguity creates a unique dynamic. Carmilla seems at once lover and predator, arousing in Laura a mixture of pleasure and repulsion. Yet Laura is impossible to pull away. There is something about Carmilla that draws her like a moth to a flame, even as the fire could consume everything she is. Carmilla's mystery is compounded by her silence about her past. While Laura tries to get closer, Carmilla keeps her origins a secret, leaving only vague and inconsistent clues. This frustrates Laura, but also intrigues her even more. It is as if Carmilla exists outside of time, without a true past to anchor her to the real world. This void in her story makes her an even more fascinating figure, an entity that seems to float between the worlds of life and death. Little by little, Carmilla's presence not only dominates Laura, but the entire castle. She is an invisible force that transforms the environment, bringing a palpable weight of mystery and tension. However, the strange deaths in the village and Laura's growing weakness indicate that there is a price to this coexistence. And so, a question becomes inevitable. Is Carmilla just a passionate companion, or something much darker? This doubt leads us to the next chapter, where forbidden desire and danger intertwine, revealing the vampire's true face. The relationship between Carmilla and Laura transcends any simple definition of friendship. Carmilla is not limited to being a companion. She positions herself as something more intimate, more intense. Her gestures are charged with passion. Her voice whispers promises that seem to echo directly in Laura's heart. "You are mine," she says, with a certainty that allows no denial. This relationship, set in the 19th century, defies the conventions of the time, suggesting a forbidden desire that goes beyond the mere bond between two young women. Laura, on the other hand, does not fully understand the feelings that Carmilla awakens in her. The vampire's touch is at once seductive and disconcerting. There are moments when Laura feels her life force diminish as Carmilla holds her in her arms, as if the heat emanating from the vampire is both a comfort and a threat. But at the same time, there is something in Carmilla's presence that awakens in Laura a curiosity and a fascination that she cannot avoid. It is a dangerous game, where the line between attraction and destruction is constantly blurred. Carmilla doesn't just defy social norms. She completely disregards them. Her relationship with Laura doesn't follow the rules of friendship or romance, but creates a new dynamic, one filled with tension and mystery. She approaches with the gentleness of a lover, but never lets go of the control of a predator. It's a bond that's about more than just bloodlust. It's an exploration of desire, possession, and emotional control. Carmilla seems to want more from Laura than just her life. She wants her soul. This uneasy dynamic makes their relationship all the more compelling. For Laura, Carmilla is both a source of fascination and fear. While the young woman is drawn to the vampire's magnetic presence, she also begins to realize that their relationship is changing who she is. Her days become darker, her nights more restless. Carmilla isn't just by her side. She's inside her, shaping her thoughts and emotions. Passion and repulsion coexist, creating an internal conflict that only heightens attention. However, society at the time would not have had the vocabulary to describe what lies between Carmilla and Laura. The story's homoerotic subtext is handled subtly, but it is undeniable. Sheridan Le Fanu doesn't just hint at a forbidden attraction. He explores it in a way that catches the reader off guard, challenging taboos in subtle but powerful ways. Their relationship is a delicate dance, with each movement bringing Laura closer to the truth about Carmilla and possibly her own downfall. As their connection deepens, Laura begins to realize that she is not just dealing with confusing feelings, but with something supernatural. Carmilla, for all her passion and mystery, is much more than she seems. What begins as a strange and intense relationship soon turns deadly, as Laura realizes that she is being consumed not only emotionally, but physically. This discovery leads us to the next chapter, the revelation of Carmilla's past and the dark secret she holds. The castle in Styria is not just a setting. It is a character in its own right, pulsating with the same darkness that permeates the story. Isolated, surrounded by dense forests and mountains that never seem to let the sun fully penetrate, Laura's castle is a place where time seems to have stood still. The shadows that stretch along the corridors, the sound of the wind howling on cold nights, all conspire to create an atmosphere of mystery. It is not a home, but a refuge that imprisons. This isolation is a mirror of Laura's own life, growing up separated from the outside world. Without friends, without any real connection beyond her father and governesses, the castle represents both her protection and her prison. Upon entering this space, Carmilla not only breaks the silence, but transforms the environment itself. The castle, previously melancholy, gains a constant tension, as if the walls are aware of the vampire's presence. It is as if the place reacts to her, becoming even darker. The castle's rooms, especially Laura's bedroom, become the scene of disturbing events. The room should be a sanctuary, but it soon becomes a space of vulnerability and fear. It is there that Laura has her visions. The enormous black cat, the bloodied figure Carmilla, and the growing weight of nightmares that she cannot explain. Every object, every corner of the room, seems to carry a fragment of the mystery surrounding Carmilla. The young woman realizes that she cannot hide, not even in her own bed. The connection between the castle and Carmilla deepens with the discovery of an old painting depicting Countess Mircalla Karnstein, an ancestor of Laura's who bears a disturbing resemblance to Carmilla. This painting, hanging in Laura's bedroom, seems to watch over the young woman with a haunting gaze. It is as if the past and the present are merging, and the castle is the link that connects these dimensions. Laura's family history and Carmilla's mystery intertwine, creating an environment where logic and reality begin to crumble. The Gothic environment is not just physical. It is psychological. Every shadow in the castle, every dark corner, reflects Laura's growing inner terror. Carmilla is not just in the castle. She is in its spirit, transforming the space around her into something denser, more oppressive. The castle is at once the stage of seduction and destruction. Each night, Laura feels the darkness of the walls closing in, as if the very environment is conspiring against her. As the events in the castle become more intense, Laura realizes that the place where she has always felt protected is now the very scene of her downfall. The castle and its mysteries surround her, but it is Carmilla's secrets that bind her strength and consume her soul. The apparent coincidence between Carmilla and the portrait of Countess Mircalla Karnstein does not go unnoticed by Laura. The painting, dating back centuries, depicts a woman with the same ethereal beauty and enigmatic gaze as her mysterious guest. The resemblance is so perfect that it seems impossible to ignore. This link to the past casts a disturbing glow over Carmilla, suggesting that she is much older than she appears. For Laura, this discovery comes as a shock. For Carmilla, it is just another part of the game. The name Karnstein carries a historical weight in the region, marked by legends of vampires and horror stories. The ruins of the village of Karnstein, near the castle, are a dark reminder of a time when darkness reigned. Laura begins to realize that Carmilla is no ordinary visitor. She is a living fragment of these ancient stories. The portrait, hanging in the young woman's room, becomes a symbol of connection to something ancient and evil, a link that she cannot yet fully understand. When General Spielsdorf reappears, he brings not only memories of his deceased niece, but also dark truths about Carmilla. He immediately recognizes her as Millarca, another identity the vampire assumed in the past, and reveals the pattern of destruction she leaves in her wake. Millarca, Carmilla, Mircalla. These names all point to the same entity, the vampire countess who has terrorized the lands of Styria for centuries. Each story the general tells is like a piece of a macabre puzzle that begins to come together. The general's narrative also introduces a new element, Carmilla's true power. It is not just her beauty or her ability to manipulate emotions that makes her dangerous. It is her ability to infiltrate the lives of others, to adapt, and to weave webs of trust that eventually turn into deadly traps. She does not simply drain the blood of her victims. She devours their souls slowly, almost imperceptibly consuming their vitality. This makes her a far more dangerous predator than any vampire that literature has ever presented. The link with Countess Karnstein is not just an ancestral coincidence. It is a bond between Laura and Carmilla that goes beyond blood. There is an implicit destiny in this connection, as if Laura was marked from birth to cross the vampire's path. The shadows of the past extend into the present, bringing with them the inevitability of a final confrontation. For Laura, understanding Carmilla's true nature also means facing the weight of her own family history. With these revelations, it becomes clear that Carmilla is not only a threat to Laura, but an echo of a curse that spans generations. The Karnstein name represents not only power, but a legacy of death and seduction. The next step, then, is inevitable. Confronting Carmilla and understanding what it truly means to face her. Carmilla and Dracula, two immortal figures in vampire literature, represent opposite sides of the same coin. While Dracula is a conqueror who uses fear and force to subdue his victims, Carmilla operates in the shadows, manipulating emotions and winning hearts. She is a predator who does not need large armies or luxurious castles. Her charm is her greatest weapon. Carmilla acts with subtlety, entering the lives of her victims as a friend or lover, making herself essential before revealing her true nature. This contrast makes her unique, more deadly than any vampire who resorts only to brute force. Dracula is often seen as a symbol of the patriarchy, a landowner, a dominator who uses his position to impose his will. Carmilla, on the other hand, completely subverts this idea. She is a female figure who defies the norms of her time, not only as a vampire, but as an independent and powerful woman. Her sensuality is a weapon she wields masterfully, transforming those around her into instruments of her will. Carmilla doesn't just frighten. She confuses, seduces, and subverts. Her threat is as emotional as it is physical. Carmilla's approach is much more personal and intimate than Dracula's. She doesn't rule from afar. She engages deeply with her victims, establishing bonds that seem as real as they are illusory. This is what makes her most dangerous. While Dracula terrorizes from the outside, Carmilla destroys from the inside out. Laura is not just a victim. She is transformed emotionally and spiritually by Carmilla's presence, making the vampire's impact that much more profound. Carmilla doesn't just want blood, she wants the soul. Furthermore, Carmilla challenges the notion of the classic predator by presenting herself as someone who also feels. At times, she demonstrates traits of humanity, such as genuine affection and melancholy. This places her in a different league than Dracula, who is often depicted as a purely malevolent force. Carmilla's duality, villain and victim, predator and lover, makes her a much more complex character. She is not just a monster of the story. She is the story, a force that challenges the reader to question concepts of love, desire, and power. Dracula may be the king of the night, but Carmilla is the queen of mystery. Her subtlety and emotional control make her an even more intriguing figure, able to manipulate those around her with a grace that belies her true nature. Where Dracula relies on servants and grandiose apparitions, Carmilla acts alone, demonstrating an independence that defies the norms of Gothic literature and the vampire myth itself. This places her in a league where she does not need to compete with Dracula. She simply transcends him in complexity. Carmilla's story ends not in triumph, but in tragedy, as all great vampire tales must. When the truth is finally revealed, Carmilla is not only unmasked as Countess Mircalla Karnstein, but also as a living relic of dark times, a force of nature that has endured for centuries. Her destruction, at the hands of Baron Vordenberg and his allies, is brutal. The coffin is found, Carmilla is staked, and her body is disposed of shortly thereafter. A final act that should symbolize the victory of light over darkness, but leaves something more sinister in the air. The feeling that nothing has truly been resolved. For Laura, Carmilla's downfall is an immediate relief, but also the beginning of a profound emptiness. The young woman has been touched by something that cannot be erased, a passion and terror that has shaped her forever. Even after Carmilla's destruction, Laura feels her presence, like a whisper that never quite fades. Carmilla was not just a blood-sucking vampire. She consumed a part of Laura's soul, leaving a void that will never be filled. The vampire's absence is almost as palpable as her presence. And what of Carmilla? Was she truly the monster that history has painted her to be? Or was she a victim of fate, a soul imprisoned by her immortal nature, doomed to repeat the same cycle of love, betrayal, and destruction? Her existence raises larger questions. What truly defines a monster? Was Carmilla merely a reflection of the repressed desires and fears of a society that did not know how to deal with female power and transgression? Her death brings answers, but also questions that echo far beyond her time. The castle, the ruins of Karnstein, the misty fields, they all stand as silent witnesses to this story. Carmilla may have been destroyed, but her essence, her legacy, lives on in every shadowy corner, in every memory of Laura. She was not just a nightmare. She was a force that defied logic and norms, leaving her indelible mark on the lives of those who crossed her path. Carmilla does not die as a villain or a heroine. She dies as an enigma, a mystery that will never be fully understood. And this is how great vampire stories should end. On a note of ambiguity, an echo that resonates in the reader's mind long after the last page is turned. Carmilla, with her mystery, her passion, and her devastating power, remains a landmark in literature, not only as a vampire, but as a symbol of desire, of rebellion, of everything that society fears and yearns for in equal measure. And you, at the end of this story, will ask yourself, was Carmilla truly defeated? Or, like every great myth, does her essence live on within each of us, ready to resurface when the veil of night falls once more? After all, vampires do not belong to the world of the living or the dead, but to something more eternal, more profound, the realm of stories that will never die.